Have you ever noticed how, like, the vocabulary we use perfectly reveals the exact kind of pressure we're living under?
Oh, completely. It's like we don't even realize we're doing it.
Right. Like, think about it. You don't just say you're tired anymore, or you don't just say work is busy. We use these highly specific, almost cinematic phrases.
Yeah, they paint this really vivid picture of exactly how the modern world is kind of grinding us down.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a really cool deep dive. It's essentially a masterclass in modern communication. We have this source list of 50 highly specific, really evocative English words and phrases.
And we aren't just going to read a dictionary here.
No, definitely not. The mission today is to teach you these phrases by mapping them onto a day in the life narrative. So from waking up to navigating those intense work environments, and then finally finding some existential clarity.
It's basically a real-time fossil record of our collective stress. We develop these specific idioms out of absolute necessity, to articulate the exact flavor of our daily existence.
Yeah, and when the environment shifts, say from an industrial economy to this hyper-connected digital one, we have now the words evolve to help us process that new reality.
Right, like we stop using agricultural metaphors and we start using mechanical ones to describe our own biology.
It's so true. So we'll guide you through 4 distinct phases of modern life. Let's begin at the very start of the day. The alarm goes off,
Hmm.
and immediately our language reveals this deep biological reluctance.
Oh, nobody just wakes up anymore.
No, we hit snooze. You hit snooze repeatedly. And we don't just do it to get 9 more minutes of sleep. It feels like this active protest against consciousness.
Yeah, like you're trying to buy back time. And that protest is entirely chemical. Your body is being abruptly pulled from a restorative state into a really demanding one.
Right.
So when we finally, drag ourselves out of bed, the language we use is entirely about survival. I mean, people rarely say they're thriving on a Tuesday morning.
No, they say they're just trying to get by.
Exactly. You get by on the 6 hours of sleep you managed to grab. You get by on that first cup of coffee. It implies the scarcity of resources right out of the gate.
And what's the very first instinct the second we open our eyes and realize we actually have to face the day? We reach for our phones.
Like a total reflex.
It really is.
Yep.
You grab the glowing rectangle because, well, waking up is physically uncomfortable, and checking your notifications provides this fast, frictionless dopamine hit.
Which is a literal chemical transaction.
Mhm.
Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for anticipating reward, right? So the phone is designed exactly like a slot machine.
Wow, yeah.
You pull the lever, you swipe down to refresh, and you get a momentary, fleeting reward just for looking at a screen. It temporarily numbs the discomfort of the morning.
I always picture it as plugging your brain directly into a hive mind.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because you wake up as an individual with quiet, isolated thoughts. But the second you open the internet, that individuality just vanishes into the collective. You're suddenly absorbed by millions of other voices, all buzzing at the exact same frequency.
It's a complete surrender of your own mental bandwidth. And once you enter that digital landscape, your vocabulary shifts entirely to passive consumption.
It's a mass observation.
Exactly. We immediately look to see what the collective is doing. We check what songs are topping the chart or what trending topics are dominating the algorithm.
Right. Or you might scroll past this highly dedicated fandom that's meticulously analyzing an episode of a television show that aired at midnight.
Yeah, you aren't interacting with the real physical world yet. You are just a spectator to mass digital behavior.
But the thing is, the internet at 7 in the morning isn't just a passive museum. It gets incredibly tribal, incredibly fast.
Oh, brutally fast.
You have these massive groups aggressively defending their digital territory. It really mirrors evolutionary psychology. Like, we are wired to form tribes for survival, but online, those tribes are formed around political opinions or tech brands or pop culture grievances.
Which is exactly why an unsuspecting person can get completely caught off guard.
Oh, totally.
Mhm.
You think you're just drinking your coffee and reading the news, and suddenly you stumble into a comment section that is operating like a digital war zone.
Because the environment is engineered for conflict. Conflict generates engagement.
And the sheer volume of information we absorb before we even leave the house is just staggering. I mean, by breakfast, we've consumed so much random data that we can easily rattle off facts we didn't even know existed an hour prior.
Right, you can rattle off the details of a scandal in a country you've never visited.
Or the stock price of a company you don't even work for.
Yeah.
We are treating our brains like RAM, just holding temporary data.
And then we take that overstimulated, slightly exhausted brain and we carry it into the physical or even the remote workplace.
All right, the second phase of our day.
Exactly. And the vocabulary we use to describe our jobs takes this sharp, almost violent turn.
I noticed this recently. I realized I don't just go to work and collaborate. The language we use sounds like we're preparing for a cage match.
Yeah, it really does.
We describe the modern office, especially in highly competitive fields, as a sharp, elbowed, pushy place. It's such a physical metaphor.
Yeah.
It implies that there isn't enough room for everyone, so you have to physically batter the people next to you just to occupy space.
Oh, it reveals a mindset of artificial scarcity. To survive in an environment like that, politeness is a liability. You can't just knock on the door and ask for an opportunity.
No, you have to wedge your foot in the door.
Exactly. You have to force an opening and hold it open with your own body weight, just hoping the door doesn't crush you.
And once you're inside, the baseline is never enough. Management is always demanding a ramp-up of production.
Oh.
The language of the factory floor has completely infected the knowledge economy. Like, you can't physically ramp up a human brain's ability to write code or design a product the way you can speed up a conveyor belt. But the vocabulary demands that we try.
And this is exactly where the system begins to fracture. When leadership demands a ramp-up of production without providing additional resources, time, or personnel, human beings are dangerously tempted to cut corners.
It's the path of least resistance.
Right. You skip safety protocols, you ignore quality assurance because the pressure to deliver the volume completely outweighs the mandate to deliver the quality.
And inevitably, the system collapses. Because when you cut corners, things go completely haywire.
Always. The project derails, the software crashes.
The client gets angry. And that sets the stage for the corporate hero complex. When things go haywire, someone has to swoop in at the last possible second and pull off a 0-hour save.
Oh, the 0-hour save is one of the most toxic dynamics in modern business.
Really? How so?
Well, it creates a reliance on adrenaline. Instead of building a functional system, the company relies on individuals burning themselves out to prevent disaster.
It reminds me of trying to maintain a bridge. If the structural integrity of your bridge relies on someone running out with emergency duct tape every single day at rush hour, it's not a bridge anymore, it's a trap.
Exactly.
And relying on that adrenaline every day leaves you feeling like a car on fumes. It's another mechanical metaphor for a biological reality. The engine is sputtering, the warning lights are flashing, but you're still forcing the vehicle to move forward.
So let's look at the psychology of the people running that system.
Okay, wait. Let's stop right there and look at this logically. If a team is physically and mentally exhausted, if they're literally running like a car on fumes, the logical move for any manager is to pull them over and refuel. You give them a break.
Right.
If you don't, the engine seizes. So why do we see the exact opposite happening in almost every corporate environment?
Because management is driven by anxiety, not logic. Panicked leaders look at a struggling team and they don't see exhaustion. They see a loss of control.
Oh, wow.
So, out of fear, they will often tighten the grip on their employees. They want to ensure they still have a firm grip on the steering wheel, so they micromanage. They demand more updates, more meetings, more surveillance.
It's purely fear-based. They are overcompensating for their own deep insecurities by acting overtly aggressive. Like, they can't control the market, so they overcompensate by controlling when you take your lunch break.
Exactly. And the result for the employee is this profound, lingering sense of vulnerability. Because of this overcompensation from the top down, you constantly feel like you are on the proverbial chopping board.
Yeah, you're just waiting for the blade to drop, completely out of your control.
And when the external environment destabilizes, that tension just snaps.
Right. If management pushes too hard, and there's a sudden plummet in the high-stake environment, let's say the quarterly earnings crash, or a major client pulls out the stress, has nowhere to go but sideways.
Yep. Minor disagreements don't just stay minor anymore.
No, they turn into a skirmish. Departments start hoarding budgets. Coworkers start pointing fingers.
Because the fight-or-flight response has been triggered in a corporate setting. And if that skirmish isn't resolved, it escalates from a localized argument into a full-blown mutiny.
A mutiny. We borrow terms from 18th century naval warfare to describe software developers refusing to follow a CEO's directive.
It's wild. But when people are pushed past the limits of human endurance and fairness, they revolt.
Okay, so we've gone from the digital rush of the morning into this hyper-violent workplace. Let's shift gears to the third phase. Let's look at the drive home. Let's look at the internal monologue. If the external environment is a battlefield, what does our vocabulary tell us about our internal emotional state?
Well, it reveals a massive psychological burden. Living under that constant, unpredictable pressure builds what we can call a literal architecture of dread.
That phrase is incredible, an architecture of dread.
It really is.
It implies that anxiety isn't just a passing storm cloud. It's a physical skyscraper that we have constructed brick by brick, and now we are forced to live inside it.
And living inside that structure furnishes your mind with chilling thoughts about the future. You lose the ability to visualize a positive outcome.
Everything feels like a threat.
Exactly. You begin to feel like your own life is playing out on a demonic level of difficulty.
Which is straight out of video game culture. The fact that we use gaming terminology to describe our lives means we subconsciously feel like we are trapped inside a rigged simulation. We feel like the obstacles aren't natural. They were designed by an unseen creator specifically to drain our resources and destroy us.
And when you are operating at that demonic level of stress, your frontal lobe, the part of your brain responsible for empathy and logic, it just starts to shut down.
Social skills erode.
Completely.
Yeah.
When people try to communicate, the conversation inevitably devolves. It goes backward in evolution. You drop from civilized discourse down to primal shouting. Every single interaction, even a simple request, becomes highly contentious.
Because everyone is in survival mode. The toxic office isn't just bad for the company's bottom line. It becomes a literal breeding ground for the worst aspects of human nature. Just like stagnant water breeds mosquitoes, a stagnant, fear-based office breeds backstabbing.
It really does. In an environment of severe scarcity, morality shifts. People start metaphorically raiding and pillaging other people's ideas.
Wow, yeah. If you can't succeed on your own merits, you steal someone else's presentation and take the credit.
And some people adapt to that environment by developing this really dark psychological armor. Some people actually get a sadistic thrill out of watching others fail.
It becomes a twisted defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, if you are failing, at least I'm not the one on the chopping block today.
Right. But being trapped in that holding pattern is agonizing. You are stuck in a state of suspended animation, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You lay awake at night, and you agonize over every small choice.
Should I have sent that email? Did I use the wrong tone in that meeting? Modern therapy culture tries to intersect with this, but it often kind of misses the mark. Like, society tells us we need to be vulnerable, that we need to emote more. We are told to bring our quote-unquote whole selves to work.
Yeah.
But just emoting, just crying at your desk or venting your anger doesn't fix the underlying structural issue.
No, it doesn't fix the spreadsheet, and it doesn't fix the bad management. What psychology tells us we actually need is a functional coping mechanism. We need an active strategy to process the stress, not just display it. You need a release valve.
Another mechanical term, we use thermodynamics to describe human emotion. If the steam in the boiler can't escape safely through a release valve like rigorous exercise or a deep creative hobby, the boiler explodes.
Which brings us to the breaking point and the transition into the final phase of the cycle, the ultimate clarity. Because we don't stay in that architecture of dread forever, eventually you reach a threshold where the illusion just shatters.
Right. Because reality has a way of asserting itself. The truth will always seep through the crack. You can build the most elaborate corporate facade, but if the foundation is rotting, the water's going to get in.
And then you realize that you can no longer just apply a superficial gloss to a bad situation. Slapping a fresh coat of high-gloss paint on a crumbling wall doesn't fix the structural damage.
No, it really doesn't.
You also realize that your own silence doesn't equate to agreeing with what's happening. You've been complicit by staying quiet, but you never actually consented to the misery.
This is the moment of awakening. You stop listening to the buzzing of the hive mind, and you start trusting your gut feel. I find it fascinating that we refer to intuition as a gut feel. Biologically, the enteric nervous system in our gut has millions of neurons. It is literally our second brain.
Right, yeah.
So when your gut tells you a job is destroying you, it is processing subconscious data faster than your conscious mind can even rationalize it.
And honoring that physical intuition forces you to face the problem squarely. You stop looking for workarounds. You look the reality of your situation right in the eye.
And when you face it squarely, you brace for impact. You learn to take the hit, to hear the criticism, or face the terrifying prospect of quitting without a flinch. You step into the conflict without flinching.
That requires a massive amount of psychological resolve.
It does. You accept the short-term pain because you finally understand it's the only way to get the long-term cure.
And when you finally stand your ground and enforce a boundary, the relief that washes over you can be genuinely miraculous. The chemical fog lifts, the cortisol drains from your system is so profound that it is actually hard to fathom how much your life has improved.
You look back at the architecture of dread you were living in, and you can't fathom how you survived in that building for so long. It completely reframes your perspective on time. You realize the thing you agonized over, the bad quarter, the missed promotion, the angry email, was actually just a temporary blip.
Just a blip on the radar screen. It appeared, it made a noise, and then the sweeping arm of the radar moved on, and it disappeared into the dark. It wasn't the entire world. It was just a passing signal.
That realization completely rewrites your value system. You recognize that peace of mind, autonomy, and true freedom are a treat we prize above all. We prize them above the dopamine hit of the phone. We prize them above the validation of the sharp-elbowed workplace.
Exactly. We start pouring our energy into temporary, acute stressors. We start actively seeking out things that are perpetual. We want deep, lasting connections. We actively reject the exhausting, meaningless, perpetual motions of the corporate rat race.
The wheel is constantly spinning, but it isn't actually moving forward. We choose to step off the wheel.
Right.
We take all that energy we're using just to quote-unquote get by, and we redirect it. We decide we want to build something meaningful, something outlasting our temporal limits, whether that is art or a family or a community or just a legacy of kindness. We want our existence to echo past our own timeline, rather than just surviving until the alarm clock rings again.
It is a profound psychological journey encoded entirely within the words we use every single day. We move from the biological resistance of the morning into the defensive posture of the workday, down into the introspective agony, and finally, if we are lucky, we break through into proactive clarity.
It really is incredible when you lay it out like that. Learning these phrases isn't just about passing an English test or sounding smart in a meeting. It is about giving yourself the exact right tools to articulate the chaotic, highly pressurized experience of modern life. When you can put a name to the pressure, you can start to navigate it. You stop being a victim to the environment and you become an observer of it.
And think about how fast our reality is moving right now. We've spent this entire time analyzing the vocabulary of the industrial and early digital age. We talked about cars on fumes, mechanical release valves, and digital hive minds. But the environment is shifting beneath our feet again.
Exactly. As artificial intelligence takes over more of our workflows and the line between human output and algorithmic generation completely blurs, what new phrases will we invent to describe that specific, unprecedented pressure? Will we stop talking about feeling like a car on fumes and start talking about experiencing a kernel panic in our own brains? Will tomorrow's architecture of dread be built out of lines of code rather than bricks and mortar?
It's a fascinating evolution to watch. The words will inevitably change, but the human necessity to name the fear and ultimately to find a way out of it will remain exactly the same. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, pay close attention to the specific phrases you find yourself using. Are the words you choose building an architecture of dread, or are they acting as a release valve, helping you build a life that is outlasting your temporal limits?